if you know your strengths and you can just step into reinventing yourself with that strength again, not only will you be able to not set yourself up for any disappointments, but you're going to be able to catapult yourself into a way that you'll be able to fast track all of the success that you want to have.
Welcome to MLM Nation, a podcast of leaders, by leaders, for leaders, hosted by Simon Chan. He's built a team of over 200,000 and is now a full-time MLM coach and trainer. So if you're ready to level up your business, join us now. Let's do this.
MLM Nation, this is Simon Chan. I'm fired up to bring a special guest today with TL Buchberger. Hey, TL, are you ready to make it happen?
I'm so ready to hang out with you and meet and enjoy this conversation with you, Simon. I have lots of questions for you as well. And I'd like to say to all your fans and the fan base of MLM Nation, what a great resource we have with Simon.
No, thank you for your kind words. For those of you who don't know TL, she has such an incredible background. I was talking right before this. She was a figure skater, competed in high school, then went to university for just 1 year, and then worked in various jobs from being a figure skating coach, a personal trainer, to even making Michelin tires in a tire factory. That's around when she got started in network marketing around that time. But today, she's a full-time leader who's made over $2.5 million in lifetime commissions. TL lives out in Canada. So TL, welcome to MLM Nation. Please take us back to your background. How did you go from figure skating to coach to making tires in a tire factory?
I love that question. Well, I guess it comes down to resources. You just have to do what you got to do in order to pay the bills. And I absolutely had so much fun coaching kids in the pool or on the ice. I loved it when I was competing. I competed in a small town, Ashcroft, and summer swim club. And we just went around the province, and every weekend there was a swim club event. And then in the wintertime, no pool was open, and we skated. And so that's how that all worked. I was always in the water, either on the water or in the water. And when I moved from BC to Nova Scotia, that really wasn't covering the bills. And one of my dad's friends said, maybe you should apply to Michelin. And at that time, Michelin Tire was really big in Nova Scotia. They had 3 plants, and they were hiring women because it's a tedious job making tires. The qualifications and the measurements that you have to do are like within hundreds of millimeters for accuracy. And so there was a lot of women that were on the line, what we call on the line. So there's like a production line, and they make a certain amount of tires within a minute. So you're really busy and you stand there all day and you're just working. So I got that job, and I was there for 7 years, and Michelin Tire was, I guess, not the biggest and funnest part of it, but having the coaching at the end of the day or off on the weekends that I wasn't working at Michelin Tire just made it more fun.
So how did you get exposed, or who approached you about network marketing?
It was a lady in the arena that was had her daughter there, and she was talking about how we could get the kids sort of ready and put makeup on them for their carnivals and stuff like that. And that's how the interest started with, getting dressed up and looking and having more fun while you're on the ice. And yeah, we sat down across the table, and she was a director in that county. And she just asked me, how would you like to have more fun? And I said, yes. And from there, we just started going to all these little meetings. And then I got a chance to go to Toronto and got the bug of going to conventions. And it was really exciting seeing all of these people sort of all working together for a common goal of improvement, looking great, and feeling fabulous, and inviting other people to experience that camaraderie. it was really fun.
So when you got started, how did you do? Did you have success right away, or it was a struggle?
Well, I would like to say that success happens right away when your intention of helping other people is in the right spot. So yes, I feel like, there's lots of ways that you can measure success. Um, one of one of my mentors said, "Success is by the amount of commas in your paycheck." But I think that you can use other measures of success too, and whatever makes you happy and gives you a lot of satisfaction. So in that company, I got to the point where it was, paying for the product that I wanted to buy and purchase. And it gave me a little extra spending money. It covered all the costs to go to conventions. And so it was pretty exciting and still working full time shift work as well. So it was just a really great community.
What was the light bulb moment or aha moment where things really started to take off for you?
Well, I would say that happened when I went to a really big conference. And that conference was not specific to any company. It was a group of companies. It was one man that was putting on a group of companies, and you'd go and you'd listen from like all of these incredible people from like all the different kinds of industry leaders through network marketing. And it was a weekend in Vegas. And at that particular event, so it was at GoPro. And it was in the year of GoPro where he was probably in his third or fourth year. And he had Tim Sales was one of the speakers. And there was also Eric Worre walking through all the basics of like how to build a network marketing business, how to overcome objections. And then he started talking about the importance of meeting people and hosting events. And the biggest aha moment that I had at my first GoPro was when Eric Worre was explaining how if you only learned one skill, and it was to build event to event, that you could be the biggest leader in your company. Because building event to event creates all kinds of friendship bonds, also creates community, and it allows people to stay connected way beyond just a casual hello, because you actually get to really have well, I keep saying more fun, but you end up having fun. And what that does is it builds such a big, strong friendship that people will really lean into the friendship part, especially when business isn't going as well.
So how did you deal with the events now? Because it seems like everyone was into events to events, and then COVID
Yeah.
happened, and then
Yeah.
people went Zoom. So where do you see that going now? I mean, definitely events are more popular again. But talk about the last couple of years. How have you adapted?
Well, that was a really tough time. And I would say because we were so strong in building event to event, that it helped us manage and micromanage all of the ways that we needed to stay connected. And so getting on Zoom and having Facebook parties and creating those events inside of, your house, your home, and feeling like you're on those little cameras with all the people there, but you can still see everyone, knowing that that part was in place of the big room at the convention center. We just sort of all stepped into it and realized the importance of staying connected. And that just became the new norm for the room in person. So I think that if you have that culture of building event to event and you're using Zoom as a tool, then having a live person event is also really important, because that's kind of like the history of, I would say, every great family reunion.
So you have like a event, we say event every 90 days, an event?
Yes.
If someone was listening and they didn't have an upline like yourself who does events every quarter, what would you recommend them to do?
Well, that's a great question, because I think when you make the decision to start in your business, and if you have, let's call it a finish line or an event planned at the end of, say, you're doing a 90-day run, or you're just getting started and you want to get a lot of momentum and create a lot of excitement and interest into what you're just getting yourself set up for, then when you have an end date and you have an event planned, it seems like there's more curiosity and more investment, not only just from your own personal self of setting those big goals, because that's a pretty big goal when you have to walk into a hotel room, lay down your credit card and say, I'm going to put 50 people in the room, or I'm going to put 100 people in the room. And you create this massive action for this great event wrap up party to celebrate all of the success. And that's one of the cultures I think that a lot of people enjoy inside of network marketing, is that it's just more fun because there's so much more recognition. There's ways that you can create, I would say, business plans like party plans, like having more excitement rather than just going to a board meeting or sitting down and just being very business minded and stoic. There's lots of reasons why you need to meet people for referrals, and I guess mentorship would be another big one too. And you can do that inside of a room.
What would you say? This is my favorite question. And then afterwards, I know you had some questions for me. So you can ask. But before we do that, what's your worst moment in network marketing? To the point you maybe wanted to walk away from the profession, but you didn't, and you're resilient. And that's why you are where you are today, TL.
I would say the worst moment was at an event. And it was when it was a company changeover, a massive company changeover. And there was a lot of people, we walked in, we, we, we walked in as one company. And then at the end of the 3 days, we walked out as a brand new company at the end of those 3 days. And through that, I would say that would be the worst moment, because you don't know what you don't know. And so having that feeling of like not being prepared, not knowing what you don't know, who are these people, and then everything changes on such a dime, that's probably the worst feeling. And that happens in life too. I mean, there's all kinds of things that happen for a lot of people that are changes within an instant, accidents and bad news like cancer and things like that affect you immediately and change the projection of your life or the road that you were down. And now there's just something totally new. And to see that happen in a room of like a lot of people just sort of shell shocked, I would say that was the hardest one.
Now I'll throw it back to you because So for our listeners and viewers, when we got on there, TL started asking me questions. So I was like, well, this is going to be interesting because we've done 830 podcasts. No one's really asked me questions, except for maybe one episode. It was a special episode. But you had some questions you wanted to ask me, you want to talk to me about. So I'm interested in what do you have? I like to ask questions, but yeah, turn it around.
Well, Simon, I thought it was really interesting I watched quite a few of your podcasts, but the one that I really leaned into was the one that you had all the tips of like how to build your network marketing business. And one of them was, you said that you need to personally recruit your way to your check, because duplication is a myth. And I was just curious on what brought you to that analogy and if you've changed your mind ever from that, or do you still believe that you have to personally recruit your way too?
Wow. When you mentioned that, I had to think about when did I actually say that? I've done so many podcasts. This is probably a couple. I don't even remember that episode. Maybe 5, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was 9 years ago.
9 years ago. Okay. Oh, all right. So this is the episode. But if anything, I firmly believe that even stronger, that duplication is a myth. And what I mean by that is, I think when we first start off, I think going back to your Michele Tires days, when you heard that, hey, network marketing, and you see that pay plan, right? And we see that compensation plan for the first time you learn it, you're either going to be turned off by it or you get excited by it, right? Some people think, oh, pyramid scheme, no good, wait, right? But some people get, oh, really? Wow, that's exciting. I recruit 5 people and then they recruit 5, and that's 5 times 5 is 25. And then they recruit 5, then it's 125, and then it becomes 625. Then it becomes 3,050, and then after 3 months, the whole world is in my downline, right? And I'll never have to work again. I'll just sit on an island and drink one of those drinks with an umbrella at the top. But I think after yesterday was as we recorded it, we recorded this on November 15th. Yesterday was my 21st anniversary.
Wow.
Being in network marketing. 10 years as a distributor, built a 7-figure business, and 11 years as a coach. And I've still never seen 5 recruit 5 and recruit 5 and recruit 5, but 2 recruit 2, recruit 2, right? It doesn't matter what pay plan. So in that sense, that's why duplication is a myth. And if you just put so much emphasis on duplication, what I've seen is people get into management mode, right? So I see so many, talk about the kiss of death. My friend Jordan Adler talks about it. The kiss of death is management mode. Now, I always talk about the 3 biggest mistakes is you quit, number 1. Number 2 is you get into management mode. And number 3, you go full-time too early. And management mode is like, oh, for example, I recruited TL and now I'm just going to stop. And because I have momentum, I recruited a couple people, and that often happens. A company may have like a fast start bonus. They recruit 2 or 3 people, get a couple customers, and they stop. They spend all the time. Like I'm spending time to train TL. I got to train her, get her going, do this. And what happens is you take yourself out of momentum. And the chances are the people who join the business, most of them don't do much, right? They become glorified customers. They may do a little bit, but they're not going to do much at that time. And then I think you said something that's really important for creating long-lasting success. It's like, you talk about why did when you were Michele Tires, what attracted you was you said fun, right? You get to travel, fun, right? So most people are not going to do much, but they basically become customers, but you keep them from the culture of fun and fulfillment. Like you said, you become fulfilled. You go to event to event. It's exciting. You meet new friends. More fun than being in a factory. And that's what most of your organization is going to do. They're not going to do much. Now, they may get 1 or 2 customers or 1 distributor a year, but that's not really duplication, right? The duplication comes from the leaders, like yourself. You probably brought in a lot of people, right? Most of the team is not doing that much. It's finding a couple people that do most of the work. And I think one of my aha moments was, I remember, and another big mistake is management was creating systems. You probably made that mistake. I made that mistake. We created I remember this 12-page manual of this is the core system to get people going. Most people don't even get to step 1, right? And like you said, Eric Worre talked about the key is going to event to event. Because if you're event to event, I talk about one of my 6 steps is staying connected. You feel connected, it's fun, you stay in the game. But most people don't even get there. They can't even get to inviting. So all the other steps is not important. So this was one of my big aha moments. I share 2 things and get back to you. I remember a couple of years, this is when I was building. My upline mentor was making, and you know him. He's one of my best friends. Is Steve Schwartz, right?
Okay.
He's one of, right? So I looked at him one day, and I'm thinking about him. I was talking to my leader. We're busting up. I have a Malaysia system. I have a system in the U.S. But Steve was earning way more than any of us are. Because on one leg, he had this guy, Jason. Another leg, he had this person, Pat. Another leg, he had Lynn. And then he had me. And I was like, talking to my friend, John, you know what? We're like the dumbest idiots because we're working our butts off. or four of us, Lynn, Jason, we create the systems and Steve does nothing, but he earns way more than we do. Right. And so it's like there's no duplication. But what Steve understood was this business is about recruiting leaders, finding the next Simon. And the Simon's going to do everything. Steve never spoke on stage, never did, but he was always very good at endless recruiting, finding the person. And we talked about investing in yourself, why it's important to invest, because the more you grow, you're going to attract better and better and better people. Like when I first started, I couldn't attract. I had these great leaders in Malaysia, Philippines. I couldn't attract them because I wasn't the person that they would want to join. But as I worked on myself, attended events, worked on myself, I got better and better. I was able to recruit these people. And I was just thinking that first year, my friend John, at the top of duplication, I think my first year, I had like 30 something, 33, 34 people. One was my mom, who was basically a customer. Another person does very little. And the rest, and there's one other person, and the rest all quit within like a year and a half. But that one other person does more than probably 10,000 people combined. And he's earned over 3 million in his life. And he's still active today. Right. So it's like, I still earn residual income comes from him, from what he has done. It's not from the rest of the people. The rest of the people are just customers. So that's why I said duplication is a myth. It's really about recruiting that leader. And it's about duplicating leaders, not duplicating everyone. And the other people, there's nothing wrong with them because everyone has different stages in life. Right? If you had recruited me, I probably wouldn't be building. I have 3 boys right now. I spend a lot of time in baseball. I'm not going to be building. But you can keep these people fulfilled. They're enjoying the benefits of the product. They're getting the rewards of that. They're getting the fun, the fulfillment, and they stay in. And they're basically your customer base. So that's what I mean. Leader duplication is a myth. And there was one other point, but I forgot it right now. But it's basically you just find the leaders, and the leaders will bring in more people than the rest of the other people combined.
It's kind of like that rule, the 80-20 rule.
Oh, absolutely. And then the 80-20 of the 80-20, right? You're talking about, look, if you look at your downline, right, just 80% don't do much, the customers, 20% do something, but then of the 20% of the 20%, which would be like 4 people, right? That'll be 4%. The 20% of 100 would be 20, 20% of 4. If you look at any leader, their downline, 4 people are the ones that do almost everything. And it's not just a foreign network marketing. That's just like in any industry. Like most people get a real estate license, don't sell a house, right? Most people get certifications, don't do anything. Most people who buy golf clubs, they don't play golf. Most people sign up for fancy golf lessons. They don't do much anyway. So it's just human nature, unfortunately. But in network marketing, it's the same way.
So human nature.
Yeah, I think if you understand, if I had to go back to university and college again, I would study psychology. Like if you understood what humans, the way they think, you'll be successful in anything. You'd be a good leader. You'd be a good manager. You'd be a good in network marketing. Right? It's like, how do you get people to join? How do you get people to stay? You talked about it. It's fulfillment, fun, right? Feeling important. Like when you're in the factory, Michele, I'm sure you got no fulfillment there. Right? It's just standing there all day doing that stuff. But network marketing, you're on stage, you get awards, you get to travel, you get to meet new friends, right? And that's what human nature, that's what we crave for. We all want attention. We all want some fun. We all want a sense of belonging.
And I think that's really important, especially after COVID and all the lockdowns, even more so. People recognize what we had from before, and maybe there's a lot more sense of gratitude going around with
I think that's more important than ever. You talk about events, because especially with AI now, right? Like we're leveraging AI for our technologies, for our company, and there's more AI there. Then no one knows what's real or fake, right? And at the end of the day, we're humans. We still crave interaction with people. We can, watch all the social media, but we want to be with real people. And I think the more the world is going digital online, the more we crave that hanging out, right? Because we could talk on Zoom, like right now we're talking on video, which is better than like messaging or better on a phone call. But it's not the same as we were grabbing a coffee together out in Kelowna, right? That the bond will be so much greater. And I think that's why, someone said this is so true. Like if online worked, if just online worked, then the church would never have service on Sunday. Right? And the church attendance, church took a huge drop during COVID. But and then like sports stadiums, right? Why do people go to sports? Why do people go to concerts? Whereas you're lining up and you're paying so crazy prices to see Taylor Swift, right? Because of the community. It's fun, right? Why do people go to sports events? They're crowded and you have to pay for parking and you're paying for overpriced, sucky food, right? It's because of the environment. And I think that's like, I don't really watch sports anymore. The only time I watch sports is with my kids because it's the relationship, the bonding time, or like, during the World Series, the Yankees, Dodgers, going to a bar, going to a restaurant, watching with everyone else, be part of something. At the end of the day, we're humans, and you have to think about, if you're listening, watching, how do you apply that to your business? And like TL says, you got to go event to event.
And I think that's a great way to really kick off your business. And having those events, you get the energy. And when you're talking about going to sports events or concerts, see is one thing, but then all the rest of the senses are also attacked too. You can hear, you feel the vibration of the music, you've got the energy, you hear. It's not just you cheering in a room by yourself. You have like 10,000 people or 100 people around you cheering for the same cause. And that brings more excitement. And I think sound. Go ahead.
Absolutely. It's like you say your aha moment was going to that event, right? The Eric Worre event. And I think almost every speaker, every leader I've had on the show, I'll say 95% of them, when I asked them about the aha moment, it was from an event, whether it was like a, GoPro or the company event or a home meeting somewhere. Because like you asked me about like the hockey before, right? About your last name. There was like a famous player, Buchberger. Like I may have seen that, but I don't remember it. But if we actually went to an NHL game together, I'll never forget that experience, right? You can watch sports at home. You may forget about the game, but certain things, if you're watching with someone, you never forget that experience. We went to an NHL game. Like I went to our first NFL game years ago with my late friends. I'll never forget that. It was freezing. Like you talk about the senses, freezing in the Meadowlands, watching the Jets, bleachers at times because I couldn't afford good tickets. But I'll never forget that. But those are the things that, create that fulfillment and the memories and make people stay in the business.
Yes, I agree.
So it's almost like the real duplication comes when you have the events.
Yes, because I think not only you get those involved in your senses and things like that, Simon, but the memory of that, when you smell something like, say, popcorn, or you hear that particular song, it can immediately take you back to that memory, and it can inspire a lot of hope and happiness. Like, I think there's just so much more involved than what we really realize, or maybe, if you were a psychologist and you went back to school and you got that, you'd be able to tell me all the things why it's so important to have events.
Yeah, it's like the anchoring, right? Like you listen to a song that brings you to that moment. And like, I think the mistake that a lot of people make is they talk about, I can just learn it on the virtual, right? I can learn it on Zoom. It's not when you go to events, it's not what you're learning, right? That matters. It's like what TL is saying. It's the emotions, right? The friendships that matter. If you ask me of my network marketing events, I don't remember any of that. Right? What I quote unquote learned, I don't remember any of it. But I still remember, like we talk about Steve Schwartz, I still remember meeting face to face in San Diego. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that dinner when he introduced me with a cross line. I met a fellow Canadian, by the way. That totally changed my perspective because she was a millionaire and doing network marketing. And that totally shattered my belief in network marketing. Because I thought network marketing was just for poor and broke people like me. I had like a millionaire doing it. And so I remember those moments. I remember my mentor, Dan, like prospecting in the hallways, right? It's like what you see. Those are the things I remember. And so it's not about what you learn. It's like the emotions and the feeling, like the music and getting back to the Jets game, right? I don't remember who won that game. I remember it was cold, hang out with my friend, right? Anyway, let's turn it back to you. Let me ask you a couple more questions. Because I can talk.
It's a great conversation.
Yeah. I thought you were really nervous. I told you it's just like having a cup of coffee, hanging out. Obviously, consistency is very important. How do you stay consistent in your business?
Well, I think when you have a background of being an athlete, it's pretty easy to get back into a routine or habit if you've been off. I'm sure you can relate, and probably most people can relate, how you feel if you go for a walk every day and then you stop for a week, and how you feel afterwards, sluggish, not impressed with yourself, or maybe, there's certain things that you absolutely love doing, like meditation, and you get into a routine and habit. So having those habits and routines, I think are a really good thing. And I use my cell phone and I just set reminders as like cue ups so that I can stay on track. And there's just a lot of habits that I have in the morning, meeting with my morning momentum group, and we have chats and we do read help books and things like that. So that's all part of, I think, how you set up your day. And that's really important for your mindset. You talked a lot about mindset too on a lot of your podcasts. And that potentially can be the make or break for a lot of people, especially if they are going through a lot of big changes in their life, that they need an anchor where they can lean on to find themselves more inspiration to keep going. Because if you're going through a mess or it's a really tough time, don't stop, keep going.
Yes, don't stop, keep going. And I like that you was talking about routines, because routines create consistency. Hey, you've been amazing. Thank you for sharing. And as we wrap up the show, some quick questions to pick your brain. Okay, and these can be
Okay.
quick one-liners, one sentence. The first one is, what is one of your favorite success quotes that most motivates you, TL?
The first one I can think of is, the more fun you have, the more money you make.
What's one habit that's helped you become successful?
I would like to say MSU, which is make stuff up. And that has a lot to do with how much you can be creative in your business and moving into those event to events. I really do believe that that's important, but it gives you a chance to like just be almost childlike and experiment with different things that you can do. So MSU.
What is the best piece of advice you ever received?
It would be from that event that Eric was on stage and saying that if you become proficient in one skill, and that skill is building event to event, then you will be successful.
What is your favorite prospecting tool? So say you have a qualified prospect. Do you meet them in person? Do you get on a Zoom with them? Do you talk to them on the phone? Do you send them a video? What do you like to use, TL?
Yes, and all those things that you said, those are all really great. And I think that for a lot of people, keeping them all organized when he's talking about consistency and habits, there is a really great push for free apps. And the ones that we're using right now is called Boards. And it gives you a chance to stay really organized. And you can use Boards and send out all of those things that you just said, reminders, texts, scripts, and line them up. And then it makes it really easy for people to follow along and have better connections, ask better questions, listen closely, find out what people are struggling with.
Aside from boards or any social media, what's your favorite app on your phone?
I would have to say Messenger.
What are 2 or 3 books you could recommend to ML Nation?
Okay, I have been listening to audiobooks, and I'm not sure, but have you listened to Sugar Crush?
Mm-mm. I've heard of it. I will check it out.
I would highly recommend Sugar Crush. It's really relevant to what's going on in today's epidemic of obesity, but also to just like our general health decline. And there is so much information that this doctor explains about the effects of sugar And for everyone, even if you're not in a health and wellness company, I think that knowing what's going on behind the scenes with sugar and how your body reacts to that is going to be even imperative on how you're going to spend your later years in your retirement. I mean, we all want to live long and prosperous, but let's live in a place where we can lift our own suitcases and walk the beach without a cane or walker.
Yes, and I'm not going to give it away, but you followed me. We'll put TL's social media profiles in the show notes page, but she looks 30 years younger than she actually is. So whatever she's doing,
You're
she's doing
so
it right. I was so impressed. Anyway, here's the last question.
Okay.
The $1 million question. Are you ready? So imagine you had to start all over again and you knew no one, but you had all your current knowledge, skills, and wisdom. And your contact list was zero. What's the first thing you do or the first place you go to build a network marketing business from scratch?
I think what I would do is look at what is the wisdom in behind all the skills that I learned over the last 15 years. And I would lean on that one skill set, because if you know your strengths and you can just step into reinventing yourself with that strength again, not only will you be able to not set yourself up for any disappointments, but you're going to be able to catapult yourself into a way that you'll be able to fast track all of the success that you want to have. And I would think that Google is our friend. And so if you have any questions about how to get started again or reinventing, I would do a Google search and then pick that one skill set that you absolutely love and adore about yourself and have the biggest fun factor.
And then how would you meet people from there? What would you, so it's just that you're passionate about one thing, you're going to do that. And then what happens?
Well, I would look for places to go and sort of tailgate other people's events. So when I was getting started way back in the day, I went to different kinds of women in business meetings. I went to Chamber of Commerce, lots of trade shows, and possibly not even having a booth because I didn't have the cash for that. But just going and meeting people at those events, and you'll be able to get lots of insight on not only just the people in the community, but the culture and how friendly people really can be and what kind of solutions that you could provide, and even just align yourself. So partnership is really great inside of that as well. And I think that more and more people, especially the experience from COVID, they're looking to align themselves and partner up with what's really important as far as value and contribution.
As we wrap up, any last words of advice? And then what's the best way listeners can connect with you?
Well, I think WhatsApp would be fabulous. My cell number, Simon won't be able to post that. But I like that app because you can go anywhere in the world. And so if you are a traveler or you're thinking about exiting the cold and snow, like there is going to be happening for Canada, then WhatsApp would be great. And the last recommendation I would say is that when you step into a possibility of reinventing yourself from whatever, I'm going to say, tragedy or disappointment that you might be having, because when you're looking for a way to create more money, that just gives you more choices. And those choices can allow you to get out of the situation that you're already having. So maybe you're looking for an exit strategy or a way to create more independence. I'm just thinking about a situation that I had in 2009. I was hit and run over by a truck, and that wiped me out on my personal training career. And I had to reinvent myself within the 6 weeks I was in bed. So what was I going to do? And asking all those questions of like, how do you start over? And I think if you really just get quiet in yourself, you're going to find in your DNA that we're all resilient, and you will find the answers and the skill set for you to be able to start over again.
Hey, ML Nation, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And today you've been hanging out with TL Buchberger. So keep up the momentum and head over to mlnation.com. Click on the podcast tab in the show notes. Be right there, including the links to TL's social media profiles. And I'll put her phone number in there as well. You can reach out to her. Hey, in order to be successful in life, in business, and in network marketing, you must help others. So TL, thanks again for sharing your valuable time with ML Nation. We're grateful to you, and we appreciate you for having a positive impact on millions of distributors worldwide. Thank you so much again, and God bless you. Hey, ML Nation, Simon Chan, and that was an interesting episode, right? And here's a little quick recap. And well, a lot of new things in this episode. Is it what 830 something? And first of all, be fully transparent. This is the first episode where I did not take notes and talk about AI giving me the summary notes. I felt I was fully present talking instead of like in the past, I always took my Apple Pencil or write notes on my iPad and I was still be paying attention, but this was the first time I was not, taking any notes and just relying on AI. AI is incredible. And if you follow us, I highly recommend we have like a special webinar. It depends on where you're listening to this. Just go to mlnation.com/AI. Talk about how network marketers are leveraging AI for the business. It could be whether doing meetings or taking long videos and making into shorts. A lot of stuff that is changing the profession. I always talk about network marketing is 1 or 2 years a little slower than the rest of the industries. Other industries are doing already, and network marketing, like we're just catching up right now. So that's the first episode. This is also the second episode where the guest, actually not the second episode. We did one back in episode 153, the 1 year anniversary back in 2016. It was, yes, 2016, 1 year anniversary where my friend Adam Carey interviewed me. But this was another one where she asked me questions, which is cool, and talk about duplication, talk about recruiting your way up, and really talk about events, right? We spend a lot of time talking events because events are the lifeblood of network marketing. Now, whether you like to go to events or you don't, you need to go to the events. Just talk about it's important to stay connected. That's my 6th step to a simple online system. Step 6 is, you see in the background there, step 6 is purpose-driven leadership, but step 5 is staying connected. And I always tie them together, right? But you got to be connected. If it wasn't for my event that I went to in 2004 in San Diego 20 years ago, I would not be here today. TL wouldn't be where she is. You got to go to the events and you got to get your team to the events. And there's a statistic out there that for every person, if you have a team, for every person you bring to your company convention, you earn an extra $1,000 a month. And when I first found that out and I applied it to my business, totally true. Okay. So if you bring 10 people, you earn an extra 10 grand next year. If you bring 100 people, you earn an extra 100 grand. If you bring 1,000 people, ka-ching, that's 7-figure network marketing business. And you've asked the 7-figure earners, they will confirm that. For every person you bring in, you earn an extra $1,000. So if you want to earn an extra 1,000, you must attend your company convention. You want to earn more, recruit, invest in yourself, bring better people, get people to that event. And not everyone's going to be a leader. We talk about duplication is a myth, but people are be glorified customers. There's nothing wrong with that. They'll stay in and eventually they may do the business. The last thing I want to share with this is reinventing yourself. I love what TL, because she has reinvented herself many times through tough times. She didn't really go that into detail when she got hit by a truck and was sidelined for 6 weeks, couldn't walk. She had to reinvent herself, right? But part of success is mindset, being resilient and keep going. Like tough times don't last, but tough people do, right? And my late mentor, Jim Rohn, says, you can't change the wind, but you can always change the set of the sail. So if things are not working, ask yourself, how do you need to change? What do you need to do? How do you need to think differently? Be a different person, right? If you're shy on social media, maybe that's what you need to change. You can't say, well, that's not me. Well, that's not me. be who you are right now, then you're going to be always stuck where you are. We all had to change. TL had to change from that Michelin tire factory worker to where she had to change the way she thought. She had to change her habits. She had to change her routines. And so do you as well. So that's why I have a great show. Make sure you go to mlmnation.com, follow TL, connect with her. She put her phone number on there. You can connect with her on WhatsApp. Leave us a review, subscribe as well, share this with your teams, and make sure you book to your next company event or generic event. Make sure you go to events because it's the lifeblood of the business. Not necessarily what you learn, it's what you capture. There's a saying, leadership is not taught, it is caught. And every event that I've been to, there's been a huge aha moment where, again, I don't remember necessarily what the speaker say, even though it was good, but I remember the feeling I got that motivated me to get to the next level. Even for ML Nation, the event I went to in Mallorca, Spain, Rob Sperry's the Leaders Mastermind, I got huge feelings of caught that I immediately implemented, right? That helping me take ML Nation to the next level so I can serve you better. And you see a lot of that with the AI stuff coming up soon. So anyway, if you want to learn about the AI, go to mlmnation.com/AI. Anyway, that's what I have. Everyone, make sure you apply something you learned, share this episode with others, and go out there and have a positive impact on someone's life. God bless you all.